Now, welcome to the first in a series of videos on how to cure bacon. So what we're going to do first is just look at the ingredients we've got, and I've already pre-weighed a lot of them to save a bit of time and make it easier on the video. So what have we got? Well, we've got some bay leaves here, so you can buy these from a shop. These happen to be from my father's garden, and they need to be actually crushed or stripped into pieces. We can do that in a second. We've got some pepper, black pepper that's been ground, and I'll put the actual weights of everything at the bottom of the YouTube video, so you can look at that in a second, but it's already weighed out as black pepper. 2 bowls at the back. Here's some brown sugar, and we've got some just standard white salt, PDV salt, a special salt. You can buy it online. And in this one, we've got what's called Cure 1. And if you notice, I've got a very small amount of it. In fact, we've got 5.4 kilograms of pork here. We've got some belly and we've got some loin. Now, you'll notice, and the amounts of the sugar and the salt, we're looking at about 1.2 kilograms of salt and 1.1 of brown sugar. Now, in this little, and I use a cupcake, it's really easy to use for measuring a small amount. We've only got 13.5 grams of Cure 1. Now 13.5 grams is really not a lot. If we think about what's in here, so I'll go a bit closer, there's literally barely enough to put on a spoon. This is just a standard dessert spoon. You cannot weigh this using normal weighing scales. So what I've got here is a set of scales that you could buy off somewhere like Amazon for about £5. Now what they do is they do up to a 1/100th of a gram. They're absolutely crucial in this process. So the way to measure it as well, it's really important this. So you use the cupcake paper packet there. I tear it, and then we've zeroed it. And what I tend to do is I measure a couple of times to make sure I've got this right. And when I measure again, I've got 13.51 grams there, so it's 1/100th of a gram. I know I haven't gone wrong. I can take this off, and we're still on zero, and I can double check. It's always worth checking several times, because then you can't go wrong. For me, I know, because I've made the bacon so many times, that is about right. But if you're not sure, the ratio always for Cure 1, commonly called Prague Powder, is 2.5 grams per kilogram. Now, you can actually make this bacon just literally using the salt and the sugar and no cure, but I prefer a little bit of a pink tinge and a bit of a twang. So you can do it all naturally, or you can have this Cure 1. Now Cure 1, it's quite important to talk about this. Cure 1, there's nitrite and nitrate, and there's Cure 1 and Cure 2. Cure 1 is the cure that we use when it's bacon that we are going to cook. Cure 2 is the cure that we use, and that's when you're making salami. So this is what we often would call Cure 1 or bacon cure, and you have to cook the product. It's nitrite, okay? If I was making salami, I would use a mixture of nitrite and nitrate. And what happens is the nitrates are converted by bacteria into nitrite over time. So if we're using a Cure 2, we wouldn't be able to eat this for quite a long time. So it's quite important that. Now, this is another important step. It's worth trying to dilute as much as possible and spread out as evenly as possible the Cure 1. So I'm going to drop the Cure 1 there into the pepper. So I've dropped it in on top. And then notice I'm going to completely destroy both of these that I've used to measure with. It's really important that none of that, a tiny bit that gets into your food chain, is not healthy, and we need to spread it out. So I'm just going to mix that round, so carefully integrate. So now I've diluted it, and it's much easier to make sure that I've spread it out. So completely there, mix through. Okay. Now I'm going to take my huge bowl of salt, and we'll spread it again all on top, and again we can just turn that in with the spoon. And again, what we're looking for is an even distribution. Okay, so I'll mix that through. And I've now got a very nicely mixed pepper, cure 1 and salt. Now then, let's deal with these leaves. So, very simple. Now, the easy way, because these are really dry, is just to crush them. You can shred them, it's only roughly. Just want to give them a bit more spread again throughout the mixture, because we're only going to use some of the mixture. Hold on. Let's give it a good mix. There we go. Should do it. We just lost a couple. So again, just nice little pieces. So we've got, you can see, these nice little pieces. So we'll add that into the sugar and the salt. Just give that a mix around. All that sugar can go in. So there we go, sugar in. And again, it's important to give it a good mix. Let's go for a slightly larger spoon, I think. So I've got a big large spoon for this job. So a good mix. I need to make sure that I don't lose anything in this process. Now this is part of the reason why I made sure that the Cure 1 was added at the start and slowly mixed through. So whatever happens, I can't end up with a really nasty concentration of Cure 1. Because what I'm trying to do is I'm going to salt effectively this pork, and it's going to get sugared, which are both preservatives. I've got a little bit of sugar left in the bowl. Both of those are preservatives. And so we need to make sure that all of the meat gets an even coating. Now, by my reckoning, I've got about 2.3 kilograms there of mixture. So, if I have 2.3 kilograms of mixture, I effectively need to spread it out over 5 days, because I'm going to add some of it now and then some of it later. So, let's just finish off mixing, and then we'll work out exactly what we need to add on first. And really, it's only a rough idea, but it's always useful, especially when it's your first time, to work it out carefully so that you're sure. So we'll get a big set of scales. So there's the big set. We'll zero them, turn them on, put my bowl on. And we thought we got roughly about 2.3 kilograms. So if I divide that by 5, we're looking at about 460 grams. So we need to add today about 460 grams. So let's spoon some in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, I'll do 5, 6, 7, 8, and a little bit. So take a little bit out. There we go, that's 464. So this bowl of Cure, I'm going to set that aside, and I need to make sure that I cling film that to ensure that it doesn't absorb moisture. Not just yet anyway. So this is the Cure that we're going to use to start with. So there's our Cure. So it's fairly simple, nothing fancy, nothing complex at all. I'm doing something a little bit clever today. Let's put this pork down here. Now what I've done is I've got 3 pieces of pork. So if you look, we have a piece of pork. This is a bit of rough pork really. This is loin at this end, and then it starts to go into the sort of rough bit. Whereas this bit I separated off, that's a bit neater. So this bit will make the really nice rashers, and notice I've trimmed it all up so it's neat on the edges, so it'll absorb nicely. And that's my neat bit, rind on, because the actual rind helps you when you come to trim it later on. Stops the absorption, it's not as good, but it's better to do the slices from. And because we're doing the old-fashioned method, it's fine. But you see, this is a lot rougher. This will probably end up being bacon bits, and I'll get a few more slices off here. But it's sometimes useful to make the pieces a little smaller. Let's just set these aside a second. Put these over just out the way. And here's the belly. Now again, the belly has got all of the rind still on, so you can see the rind. I haven't scored it or anything, it's just simple. And again, I've just trimmed up the edges, you can see the belly pork. And what I did is I trimmed off that layer of fat. So you can see, you sometimes have a big layer of fat on here. Now that's going to stop the absorption. Now I could have left all the bones on, but if you see, I've just left these small ones. They'll have no problem, they won't get in the way of the curing, and they're quite nice to work through. And you just cut them out slowly. Now, what I'm going to do, and there's something actually I should say about this pork. This pork is Packington pork. Comes from a farm up in Newark, and it's really good stuff. You can taste the difference, but it's not expensive. So, we'll take the cure, and by eye, we're just going to put about a third, because we've got a bit of a pork slice here, we'll put a bit of a third in the bottom of the tray, and then just going to add my belly bottom down, give it a little rub, so we'll give it a rub around, okay. It doesn't matter if you get some on your fingers, that's okay, and we'll just dust the sides a little. Because it's only salt and sugar and nitrile, and as long as you wash your hands afterwards, you're fine. So I'm going to push the cure in. It's in the bottom of my tray. My tray is just a roasting tin. It's just a normal non-stick roasting tin. Nothing special or fancy. So there we've got our pork again. Now, I'll put about another third on this skin side. Okay, and we'll just move that round. So we're just spreading it out gently. We don't really want to lose it down the sides now. Because what we're looking for is this, partly the salt to be absorbed, and also for it to draw moisture out. And partly the nitrate to go into that pork. So, we're just giving it a good coating. Don't have to be too exact, but you need to be careful. Now, what I'm going to do this time, I'm going to put my skin on there. So I'll give it a good rub around, and we'll put our other piece that was actually like his little brother that came off. That can go on top. So you see why I'm doing a double section, because actually this roasting tray, instead of me picking another one, I can do it all in one go, which makes a lot more sense. So let's just very gently then add my remaining cure. So remember, this was a fifth. And we'll just add it on top. There we go, there's plenty on. So probably more ended up on the top. However, when you think about it, there's a clever reason for that. The loin is thicker, so it will take more salting. So it makes sense to give it the extra cure on the first day or so. Okay, so we're just pushing it down so it drops onto the sides. And of course, we're losing a bit off the top as we do this process as well. So, there we go. And a bit more. And then just do on the inside here, because there's an edge there as well. And basically, that's job done. Now you could, some people use juniper berries. Today I happen to run out of juniper berries, so it's a nice one if you've got them. But we've just got a bit of black pepper. Very simple. You can also do a bit of mace, a bit of nutmeg, and you can also do a bit of honey. But my plan with this one is that I think I'm going to use a little bit of honey right at the end. Now I've got a bit of cure on my hands, so that's okay. Just going to scrape that off so we've not lost anything. Now this method actually, it's not so important about the exact quantities, because actually you are over salting and the salt will get poured off in the end. Let me go and rinse my hands. So, other methods where you do it, where you seal it in a vacuum bag, that's when you need the exact salting. Like I said, this is not so crucial, this is over salted. So what I'm going to do now with this, I'm going to put it in the fridge. I could cover it, I could put a bit of cling film if I don't want any contaminants. It's not major, as long as the fridge is cold. You don't want it too cold so it's freezing. I'll just cover it with some cling film. I'm going to leave it overnight. I'm going to come back tomorrow. I will drain off any liquid and I will add a fifth more cure. So I've got all of this still to go, and it looks like a terrible amount of salt, but remember, you're cooking the bacon. At the end of the process, after 5 days or so, when you've used all the cure, you can maybe leave it another day. It should be nice and firm and solid. You rinse it off, we dry it off, and then put it on a trivet, or you can hang it if you've got space in your fridge, and you can hang it for as long as you want. It will be preserved and then slice and use. Hopefully I'll be able to show that in another video. Thank you for listening today.